singingtv.com. Hey singers, I'm Sara Lieb and this is singingtv.com. Together you and we are making singing simple. I am here today to start the first of what I'm hoping I can continue as a series called The Accessible Studio. The idea being that I share some of my ways and hopefully have some guests on to interview them and ask them their ways of trying to make sure that we, in both our in-person studios and our online educational spaces, can make sure that our education is accessible to everybody who wants to learn. So I thought it'd be nice to start today with some steps I'm taking to do that. And we'll start with one particular step. I'm going to call this a step towards having an anti-racist studio. I have a lot of experience as a university professor, and one thing that I have noticed is that universities, for several reasons that date back hundreds of years in terms of the way classical music has been codified, that universities, even universities that teach contemporary music, often either overtly or not overtly teach students that somehow reading or writing is the best way to learn music. And I have found particularly that not only is that not true, but it affects the way people learn, and it affects lots of self-esteem for people. For example, those folks who grew up singing in synagogue might have certain skills, or growing up singing in church might have certain oral skills that are really, really highly developed by the time they get to university. Those skills include things like being able to learn stuff by ear, almost immediately or after just one listen, being able to arrange either on the fly or orally in voices for choral works or commercials, backup singing stuff. So there are a lot of amazing skills that we gain from being able to learn music orally, or having grown up learning music orally, that or by ear, right? That students who maybe learn to read or write don't necessarily have. It's not you have one or the other. Some people learn as well orally as they do visually in terms of reading and writing. But because we have this history at the university level of weighing reading and writing somehow better than learning orally, we have implicitly and explicitly taught students, wrongly in my belief, that one is better than the other. A, that's not true. B, it's not a very nice or inspiring way to inspire students to be able to learn both skills, right? We want to be able to have oral skills as well as visual skills in terms of how we read and write music. So because this month is February and it's Black History Month, side note, if you are a contemporary musician, every month is and should be Black History Month. Contemporary music was, always has been, and always will be Black music. And those of us who are not people of color but have benefited from white privilege for our entire lives and careers should be always promoting that idea, in my opinion. I'm hoping that this idea can bring a little bit of anti-racism to the studio. So one of the things that I do is, in my intake form, anytime on my website at Voice Studio LA, my in-person version of Singing TV for clients who come and learn in person with me, I have an onboarding question. And the onboarding question says, do you learn orally by ear or visually by reading, or both? The idea being that it doesn't weigh one or the other, as we've been told implicitly for so long at the university level. It just asks, because I want to know, do you learn by hearing a song and then repeating it back? That would be learning by ear or orally. Or do you learn by reading notes, hearing it in your head, and then being able to relate those notes to pitches in your head by reading? Neither is better or worse. And in fact, I think that this history that we have of weighing reading and writing over oral skills is not just racist but classist, and it's something that we need to get away from. So I basically want to know, I ask that without judgment, and I ask because I want to know, how is it best that I'm communicating with my student? Right? Am I talking about a scale as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Because they might be familiar, or with solfege, do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, because they have experience reading and writing? Or do we just want to go do, 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 because they have more experience orally? And so I think it's really important either way to know the language that your student speaks. If they want the other skill, if I have students who read and write but don't have great ear training or oral skills, I go, well, let's learn some of that. Let's get into, excuse me, interval training, in ear training and solfege and numbers and all that kind of stuff. If students have an incredible ear or have great oral skills and want to learn to read and write, then I'll say, okay, great, here's some books that we can get into, and those skills we build slowly, just like the oral skills, day by day reading. But I think it's really important that we change our attitudes about how we approach those things, weighing neither one as better or worse, but rather just exploring music as music, and giving as much access to everyone we can with all knowledge, and in every way, because I think all ways of learning, the one we didn't include, of course, kinesthetic, but all ways of learning are important. All ways of learning should be accessible. And I think we have a history as teachers, like, if I learn one way, I teach that way. And it's been really important to me in my teaching career to go, just because I learn this way does not mean necessarily that my student does. So I'm always trying to make sure that I learn how my student learns, so that then I can teach them how they learn, rather than teaching them how I learn, which may not necessarily be helpful for that student. So hopefully you can change or edit your intake forms. You can start to think about how you're communicating with your students, in terms of valuing their skills, building up their skills, making sure that they know that the talent that they have turned into skill is just as important, just as useful, just as amazing as the others. And hopefully we can fill in some of the gaps if there are some skills that they lack and need to build. And hopefully we can do that in a way that is both anti-racist, inclusive, not classist, and is helpful for everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. Together, you and I are making singing simple.